just a quick intro. I know we've probably you've spoken before, certainly, but my company, Executive Connections, has been running since 2014 now, and it's something that we entered into many, many years ago to try to help senior level executives land their next role faster. That was our sort of tagline, as it were. And we've been going for over 10 years now. I actually managed to miss the 10-year anniversary of the company back in February. So that was good for me to do that. So we've still got to get something organized for that. But it's just all about, working with people. I'm not that concerned with that kind of thing, really, to be honest with you. But we've got teams of coaches spread not just in the UK, further afield, in case we work with clients where working with somebody on the ground makes much more sense if they're in Singapore or wherever that might be. So this little series of presentations is broken down into quick little bit of preamble, as we've done, presentation, but mainly it's around sort of discussion and Q&A and so on and so forth. So even though I'm going to talk a little bit about soft skills, don't feel that your questions when we get to that point have to be just around soft skills. They can be around any subject. Could be CV, it could be personal branding, it could be leveraging LinkedIn, it could be job interview situations that you've had or feedback you want to provide about your experiences around soft skills and emotional intelligence. It all crosses over. And there is an invariable digression with these subjects because they do sort of feed into each other. So yeah, I think just a quick image to kick things off here. I think that was pretty much the situation that Stephen explained earlier on about somebody having no emotional intelligence. So yeah, I think that even if that guy sat down there trying to defend himself has got really high technical skills, if he's got low emotional intelligence or no skills whatsoever that we would term as soft skills, then he's in kind of big trouble. Hi, Ulrika, morning. So I think most people that come along to these kind of sessions would be almost preaching to the converted, but I'll just try and keep it clear and keep it concise throughout. You can be good at what you do, but if you don't have that genuine ability in terms of soft skills and EQ, emotional intelligence, again, it all crosses over, really. You do need that to progress and stand out. There's been a number of surveys done that if there's equal footing in terms of technical expertise in a role, the person with higher soft skills is always going to do better and always going to be a sort of a better, stronger leader. Or if they're not in a leadership position, then certainly as a general sort of performer. Just in terms a little bit around communication. So I'll be stopping off at certain points along the way that I relate to soft skills and trying to make those useful for you in a situation, whether it's relating to job search or whether it's relating to your professional practice as we speak at the moment. So effective communication, speaking with clarity and impact, as he makes an effort to speak clearly when I'm reading out this particular slide. So within your own roles, think about getting rid of the jargon. If you're thinking about it in terms of also an elevator pitch, for example, keeping that nice and concise and making it quite impactful, practice it, rehearse it, and just make it so you really own it when the day comes when you need to use that kind of thing. But just in general, think about clarity, think about brevity as well. It's not all about the length of what you're saying. Just in terms of a definition of active leadership, active listening, I beg your pardon, which I hope you will have heard of, but generally listening properly, not listening just to wait for a pause in the conversation so you can get your view across. Active listening is a skill. It needs to be learned, and you need to learn to listen between the lines, as I call it. We hear about reading between the lines, but I call it listening between the lines. I think that's really important when you're in any situation, whether you're with a colleague, someone that reports to you, or your manager, whatever it is. Just try and get a picture of, what that person is really trying to say, and have a little pause before responding in any kind of two-way or group kind of scenario. I talked about this right at the start with Stephen, actually, about non-verbal cues and about body language, and it being quite dangerous about thinking that if you see somebody with their arms folded, it means they're defensive, and all of that. You kind of, in terms of body language in general, you're looking for clusters of behaviors. It's not just one particular thing that individual might be doing. But if there are two or three things that are kind of all related, arms crossed, legs folded, you name it, that kind of thing, then you can generally get more of a picture around where someone is coming from. And some of that would be quite obvious, and some of it would be more subtle. So I think we come on to this, but there will be more challenges when I'm now looking at a little black dot here, but I'm talking to you. So it's kind of one of those things where we now need to be effective on camera as well in many situations. And I know some people, by the way, that have started to take a couple of weeks off Zoom calls and Teams calls and so on, maybe over the summer or something like that, if they're able to, just to sort of break away from that. But it's a different skill from face to face, but I think it's equally relevant, particularly with interviews being held in that way so much these days. So again, it's crossover. It's things we've talked about, we've mentioned. I think knowing yourself is the biggest thing you can do. I don't know whether you get involved in mindfulness, meditation, going for nice walks in the country if you're able to do that, or around town, whatever it might be. All those opportunities that give you a chance to just reflect on yourself and come up with ideas, solutions to problems you might be facing, things of that nature. In terms of just the composure under pressure piece, just briefly, people handle this in different ways, and some people might view themselves, as actually having, something that's challenging for them. They might identify as having ADHD, or they might just have a short fuse, or they might just be not the best listener. So how you compose yourself under pressure, I think sometimes that's recognizing what's going on inside your head, and the first stage to actually coping with it, and sort of taking a metaphorical deep breath, or a real one if you're able to, is being able to recognize what's happening, in your head. So staying calm isn't just it's not just a simple thing to do. I practice mindfulness. I know many people that do, and I think it's about consistent practice in that just helps you to become, slightly better in those situations, and able to just stop, pause, reflect before reacting. So in terms of empathy, I think you're probably aware of, for example, servant leader style of leadership, and things of that nature as well. There are plenty of other styles. It's how you relate to a team if you're managing a team, or indeed if you're part of a team. And it's looking at other people's perspectives, which is certainly more important. We speak to a lot of people who they might be complaining about recruiters that they're trying to get hold of, or other things. It's sometimes you have to look at it from the other person's point of view, however hard that might be, particularly if you're in an active job search at the moment. I think there are a couple of things here around things I would pick out anyway. Never mind visionary, but just thinking, really. Have a clear idea of what it is you want to actually achieve, whether it's within a team, whether you're in a team and you're trying to influence your leaders, whatever concept, or whatever aspect that might be. I talked about servant leadership, and certainly empowering comes under that in terms of leadership style, shall we say. All soft skills, all relating to soft skills and emotional intelligence, everything I'm talking about at the moment. And influence, credibility. Well, again, it's my instinct to go to credibility. It's more about being credible as you're talking to people, being genuine, rather than necessarily the background agenda of wanting to influence. If you've got a clear vision and you're articulating it clearly and you have passion in it, then people will come with you, usually. So, I mean, adaptability has become a watchword, I think, really, just in terms of, post-COVID. If you're in the UK, things were happening before that, political ups and downs and so on. We've had to be adaptable for quite a few years now anyway, and we're probably not realizing that, but we had to adapt to a lot of things, new working environments, the sort of, maybe it's like a 10-year acceleration of the whole working from home and hybrid working approach that people are now taking and instantly having to take on board, the employers as well as the employees. So change is here, and we all have to cope with it. It's why I think it's even more important in and around soft skills and EQ is to think about your own mental health, whether you practice mindfulness, these kinds of things that I mentioned earlier on. I think to help your resilience, particularly in a job search, it's really tough out there. The market is tough at the moment. Speak to lots of recruiters about this, the kind of top tier type recruiters, and some of them are talking, I used to talk to people about 4 to 6 months for a new role. They're talking longer than that now. Slightly pessimistic maybe, but it's just to be aware that that resilience needs to be there in that context. Just keep learning. If you're not working and you're looking for your next role, just keep abreast of what's happening, keep having informational interviews with people, and don't seem, again, this is soft skills, not being too pushy or needy or desperate, or a bit of a London phrase, thirsty, one that I came across recently. I quite like that one. Don't come across in that way. So just in terms of networking and relationship building generally, this is all reciprocal. I see things here that seem like strategies to sort of build your network, grow more connections, whatever it might be. But just try and always have the mindset about what's in it for the other person. What are you trying to bring to the table? The nurturing of relationships, the mechanics of that, sometimes people will have a little sort of bit like a marketing exercise, that they may connect, they may have a sequence of very well thought out messages, because what you're trying to do is to get to speak to someone, presumably, a peer or a recruiter or a hiring manager, and trying to have a conversation with them. Again, not trying to push them in terms of a role and so on, but you're trying to have a networking relationship building conversation with that person, bringing yourself to it. Leveraging your network is about what you've got at the moment, what's lapsed. Are there any alumni that you've lost contact with, school, college, uni, and so on and so on. But also, what about new networks? I think that bog standard LinkedIn will allow 20 connect requests a day, isn't it? So how many are you doing a week, for example? How are you growing your network? Are you being strategic about it, or is it just kind of happening? Are you being reactive? So leveraging to me there means growing as well at the same time. And the more people you connect to that are relevant to you, the more radars you will get across in terms of job search. And what we want is for things to come to you ultimately. So I was looking for a kind of a superwoman or Superman pose here. You can imagine it. It's about, soft skills, confidence. I think it is a soft skill, and presence is one of those things we talk about a lot, having particularly executive presence. It isn't about being cocky, it's just about being calm and assured and knowing your corner, knowing what you're talking about. The dress piece, I think, is quite an interesting debate. People have gone to sort of no tie kind of land quite a lot these days, almost exclusively. Do you reflect that when you go for an interview? Do you reflect that in your current role if you're in the office? Interesting discussion to be had. All soft skills, all the subtleties of how you react within your particular environment, within your particular employer, let's say. So about attention, I think commanding is a strong word, but certainly gaining attention, I think, is important, just in terms of around how you carry yourself, how consistent you are, how your messages that I'm imagining now you're leading a team of some description, or you're an influencer within a team, having that consistency of message, being always there, having a kind of an open door servant leader type of approach, where you are genuinely empathetically listening to people, and not just waiting for them to stop so you can do your piece. That's what really counts, I think. And people can tell that. People can tell when it's genuine, and they will come with you, as long as you maintain that continuity and that consistency. Yes, of course, it's a differentiator. I said that at the beginning. It's about how do you establish it, by the way, or how do you evaluate it? I can't remember the author, but I know there's a book I purchased a few years ago called Emotional Intelligence 2.0. You might be aware of it. Easy to get on Amazon. The book itself is almost like a glossary of terms in a way. You're buying the book in order to access a code which is embedded into the inside back cover of the book, where you can then go on and do a test. And I think you can do that test a couple of times to see how you've progressed in your, that's more EQ based specifically, but it might be handy if you've not started with any of this at all, then it might be handy to do something like that just to get a little benchmark for yourself. So, okay. I think that development, it isn't about going off and doing an MBA necessarily all the time. It's about talking to peers. It's about keeping abreast of what's happening in your industry. It's about having mentors. I mean, we're coaches. Coaching different from mentoring. Someone that's in the workplace that knows your role, that can act as a mentor as well. That's kind of important. But like I said, they can be learned. These soft skills, they can be learned, and they can be developed particularly well, I think. And I think if it's something you feel, well, actually, yeah, I wasn't thinking about this, but I've actually got a little bit of a problem with listening to people, maybe, or whatever it might be, then hang on to that and kind of look into it. If we haven't spoken already, then there's a couple of opportunities. And again, this is for the purpose of the recording, where many people view the recordings. So there's two links here. They will hopefully be in the chat. My colleague Dorcas that's on the call hopefully will have done that by now. The first one is if you're wanting to have a one-to-one chat with me to see whether we can help you in terms of your own job search, perhaps. And again, for benefit of the recordings, we get viewed by a lot of HR people as well. So there's a separate link there if you're in the unfortunate situation of having a reorganization and redundancies resulting. We also help organizations with that. So in a slide or two, one or two, I believe, we'll come back into the room for discussion, questions, things like that. And so have a think about what you want to ask, either around soft skills specifically, or if it's a complete flip and you want to ask me a question about CV or something like that, I'll always do my best to help, whatever that is. So we do these sessions every week, but we're a commercial business as well, and we work with many clients who take on a lot of the things we say, whether it is around CVs, LinkedIn profile, the hidden jobs market, didn't mention that one earlier, interviews, getting really prepped well for your interview, and some individuals that we've worked with that have been successful. And we do have female clients as well. I can assure you of that, by the way, anybody looking at the recordings. So the next one we're going to be doing here is going to be around using tech. How do we use tech? Not just AI, how do we use tech to actually enhance your job search? So with these sessions, if you're going to come to them live, it will help to have a few questions beforehand. It just helps the whole kind of process and helps you to think about what you want to get out of it. So thanks for listening. I'll come back into the room now, and hopefully there'll be a question or two that somebody will have, and we can take it from there. So guys, there we go. Let's have a look. Is there a message here? Oh, that's the links I was talking about. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. So does anyone want to ask a question or just have a kind of a discussion? You can do it in the chat, or you can do it, unmute yourself and just sort of fire away. No one wants to be first?
I'll be first. Hi, Steve.
Understandable.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
So I'm not entirely sure. So I've started kind of, okay. I'm looking to move back to the UK. I'm currently working in Southeast Asia.
Yes.
And so I've kind of started looking for a job maybe about a month or so ago. I'm still employed, but kind of starting to get the feelers out about what the market is like in the UK. I think it's the first time I've seen something like this, or rather, it might be the second time. I think I've seen another executive search function or executive coaching function, but I don't really know much about it.
Okay.
I think it's the first time in my life I've kind of come across a service such as yours.
Okay.
I'm not sure whether this is the right format or the right kind of forum to ask the question. Yeah. But what is the service? What's the
As you can tell, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to just give if everyone can bear with that. I'll do like a 2 or 3 minute, overview if you like.
Please.
So coaching in itself, in its many different forms, whether it be life coaching, relationship coaching, and all of those kinds of things, you know, in many regions of the world, it's been prevalent for many, many, many years. And a lot of not just senior leaders, but a lot of individuals within organizations avail themselves of either working with an external company. Leadership development, for example, is quite a common area of coaching that organizations will invest in for their staff, where it might be manager to director, that kind of transition as well. While we do some of that type of coaching, our particular niche is career coaching, and that's niched even further to the executive senior level. I won't say that's 100% exclusive. We certainly work with people that are not at executive level, sometimes as a result of working with a company where redundancies have been happening, but certainly that's the overarching piece of what we do. So I always talk to people about it being a process, not a result, because that's one of those things where it's very difficult to quantify something where we are actually imparting in a lot of the time soft skills. It's quite a basic sort of kind of subject. But having said that, if someone is working with us, people will usually typically work with us over a 3-month, 6-month time frame, something like that. And that engagement could look like a session, 1 hour, once a week, with things to do in between. But essentially, you're following not a fixed curriculum. It's based around yourself and your kind of perceived strengths and weaknesses and so on. And we work around all of that. But it's making sure that you are match fit, if you like, for the market. So it's helping you to be the best candidate that you can be. When I said about quantifying and process, not result, having said that, if you hark back to the sheet I showed you with a few people that have worked with us, extrapolate that out, 93% of people we work with have landed their role within that time frame that we've discussed. So we try to make it as quantifiable as possible based on the fact that it's about coaching. So someone could come to us on the first session, for example, and say, look, no, I know exactly what I want to do. I've been a CFO here, or whatever it might be. I want to do that same role in the UK. Okay, so session 1 could be, for example, around CV, resume, that kind of area, and discussion around that. The next one could be a bit more of the same, because it depends on how much progress has been made between one session and the next, how much you've done in the background, etc. But if it was one session, 1 week for a different subject, which it isn't always, it could be CV, LinkedIn, interview skills, practice, things like that, personal branding, networking, the hidden jobs market. So executive career coaching in that way, and I'm sort of finishing up, I guess, now. It is quite front loaded in terms of its offloading of knowledge and best practices to you, so that you can then network and grow your own network and come across as the most compelling candidate. So that's essentially the difference. A recruiter, headhunter, is working for their client. I know most people who are a candidate appreciate that, but maybe sometimes not when they're waiting to hear back from a recruiter. They really are focused on their client, essentially. Whereas we are working for you, the candidate. That's the process. So with that little sort of quick overview, there's a whole not just these sessions, but there's a whole ton of stuff we put out there in terms of reports and white papers and mini podcasts and other little videos, things like that. So there's a lot of stuff out there, but it's all about enhancing your opportunities, and whoever we're speaking to, that person has to make a judgment call in the end to say, is this investment worth it? Do I actually see this as worth it? And if someone either looks at testimonials, they look at the track record of whoever they're talking to, talking like I'm an industry representative now, but I'm not, whoever they're talking to, they have to make that judgment for themselves and come into it with their eyes open that, they are still the person that's going to be in the interview chair at the end of the day. Our role is to get you, like any coach, tennis coach, football coach, whatever it might be, is to get you as match fit for that process as possible, and to iron out any sort of creases that may need ironing out. So that's essentially what it's about, and that's what we've been doing since well, for the past 10 years, as I mentioned, earlier on, 10 years plus, and certainly prior to that as well, in a slightly different kind of brand, so to speak. So, but always happy to have a further chat to you about it, even if it doesn't mean you're going down a path of thinking, are these guys expecting I'm going to become a client? It doesn't have to be like that. We can just have a further kind of more tailored
Sure.
one kind of conversation. That's not a problem.
Absolutely. So I think I see a link here
Yes.
from Dorcas. Dorcas?
Yes,
I
that's
hope.
right. That's right. She's hiding away on the call, but she's a colleague and she's keeping me on track.
Okay. So I think I see a calendarly session. Maybe I'll book something. We can have a
Yeah,
more in-depth discussion.
absolutely. Yeah, it's the one that says career strategy call, is the actual name of that URL. But yeah, thanks, Rob. Got me. I didn't really feel on the spot there with that, but it's nice to have that kind of conversation because you can assume that people kind of have had some exposure, whether it be in their workplace to coaching sometimes, or but I was only watching a video the other day of CEOs of sort of the very top Fortune companies, and what do you wish you'd had that you didn't have when you were in your role, and
Hmm.
an external sounding board, ergo coach, is what many of them said.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
and I think there's something there about some people will think, I've got a coach. Other people will say, "Oh, I've got a coach." So it's kind of different attitudes with people about having worked with a coach. It's a fact, but it should be something that's absolutely if it's going to get you that role
Yeah.
and help to leverage a network. By the way, I didn't mention that, but it's another reason it's worth having a chat is about people that we might know in your particular sector, vertical industry, whatever that might be, because you use LinkedIn for that, put a connection together, and then you go off and have the conversation and just see where that takes you. So that kind of thing is possible as well. Yeah.
No, sounds good. I mean, we have a leadership coach in our company that kind of coaches the management team. So I'm used to coaching. I've just never seen it
I see.
in in this specific setting.
Understood. Okay. Yeah. So in this kind of forum, so to speak.
I mean, kind of job seeking coach, but
I
just
see.
never
I see. Yeah. Okay.
across it. But I mean, anyway, I won't take up any more of the
That's all
group
right.
time. I'll book a one-to-one.
No,
So
that's
maybe we can have
appreciated.
that.
No, that's appreciated, Zol. Thank you very much for your input today. Much appreciated. So, how's everyone else today doing? How are
All good,
you?
Steve.
How are you, Ulrika?
I'm fine, and you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, we've got a bit
Now,
of sun here now.
wow.
Yeah, so
Okay, now thank you for the valuable session. You know what came to mind when I saw all the everything about the soft skills? It's actually the most important thing for me is like I noticed, and maybe when it depends, regarding listening skill, for example. So it depends on, sometimes in what kind of mode I am. You know, sometimes I can listen well, and sometimes I just like jump in and just interrupt people.
yeah, huh.
But and now I became aware of it. Yeah, that's actually what I'm doing. Oh my word. Okay. It was just like a
Yes.
bath going on.
Yes, it's very
Switching off.
difficult. It's very difficult sometimes with the silence as well, because there is another kind of niche, sub niche of coaching. I think it's called something like time to reflect, time to listen. I think it's called something like that, which is a kind of a sub niche where the coach would literally not say anything, until that person had very much run out of gas, let's say, during the conversation, but it is quite a difficult thing to do. If there's a silence of more than a few seconds, we want to break it, don't we? But you're probably thinking about solutions to a problem. And if you're quite quick at thinking of solutions to problems, then if someone's talking to you and you're thinking, I know about this, with the extended listening, it can just reveal a few more nuances and a few more layers, and sometimes getting more to the truth of the heart of the matter, if you like, But I mean, you're obviously well on the way. You've recognized it, and you're doing something about it.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
So yeah,
Thanks.
hats off to you. How about you, Stephen? You there? Any more reflections? I don't want to put you on the spot, Stephen. If you don't ask, that's cool.
Yeah,
But
no, I'm still here. No, I'm listening. The whole emotional intelligence bit is just fascinating for me. Sort of, I really enjoy just observing in the workplace and trying to work out who the power players are, and often clearly not those necessarily in sort of senior management positions. It is fascinating to sort of see the sort of machinations of how people actually work through an organization. I've as I said to you at the beginning, I remember receiving some feedback which was not easy to take, but it sort of also mentioned the person I was reporting to as being someone who was completely lacking in any emotional intelligence. So I just found that fascinating that someone was able to get to a CEO position. I was actually his deputy, but it just seemed to be completely lacking in. But
yes.
hey, I say the whole subject I just find really
Yes.
interesting. I guess one of my questions right now is, being a candidate or having been a candidate for the last couple of months and having, done a lot of the things that you've identified, continuing to build out that network and using LinkedIn. And oddly enough, the last role that I had, I found through LinkedIn. And so, clearly, big fan of LinkedIn and, the ability to make those connections and to mine LinkedIn, and as a result of doing that, managed to end up with an 18-month contract. So I'm very grateful for that.
Mm.
I guess one of my questions, and it's an age-old question around CVs, is in my experience, and I've used coaches in the past, and I've had my CV looked at by various people. It does seem to me, and without being too disingenuous, it seems to me that if you showed your CV to 10 people, 10 experts in quotes, you would end up with 10 different answers.
Or at least 9. Yeah.
As a candidate, you end up being very confused.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It should be 1 page. It can be 3 pages for a more senior role. It should be 2 pages, etc., etc., etc. And I've read books about CVs. It's a minefield.
Yeah, I understand, and I think you are, you're spot on there with put 10 experts in a room type of scenario and discuss all of that. And I think that when I say we, I'm talking about the company in general. Yeah, we don't have a precious sort of view about this is the way to do it.
Mhm.
I think what we did, we commissioned some independent research. It's going back a couple of years now, but I think it's still relevant, where we commissioned the organization to go out and speak to a few candidates as well, but in the main recruiters, and ask what they wanted to see in a senior level CV or resume in general. Some of it was cross Atlantic as well, but the overarching feedback from that was a compelling executive summary. So whether that's 6 or 10 lines long, or whether you call it personal profile, whatever you call that, so, don't have the bit in the middle that is a list of let's get past the robots list of skills, but going straight from the executive summary into the reverse chronological career history. And aside from that, making sure that there are a lot of pounds, dollars, percentages, all of that peppered throughout, that the eyes just go to, so I haven't spent, a long time trying to then extrapolate that out and say, well, that means then it should be this, because we did a CV session a few weeks back here, and I was saying that 2.5, 3 pages has got to be fine for somebody who's had a bit of a career, and they want to still put the main points and really push things across. And one response in the chat to that was that, or in the discussion, was that a recruiter, headhunter, had said, No, I want 2 pages. 2 pages is it. That's what I want. So there's always going to be, and so part of what I'm saying is there needs to be an acceptance, I think, that there is never going to be a perfect answer to the CV. There isn't going to be the kind of holy grail, the silver bullet, etc., etc. There's going to be something which is the best CV that you have, that stands for everything about you, that you are able to sort of adapt as required here and there. So it's just making sure you've got something that's you're proud of and that you've got as a standalone document. I'm in the 2.5 pages, 3 is fine type camp, because most people we speak with would have had kind of quite extensive careers and would have or have a lot of things they want to mention. So
Sure.
it's the other reason for not having that block of key skills on the front page, because you're pushing your career history further down onto page
Yeah.
2 and so
No,
on.
I think that's right. I think some of the recent advice, and I think it's been around for a while, but I think it's incredibly valuable, is that I'm not quite sure exactly how many seconds they reckon that, by the time that a CV actually gets in front of a person, it might be 30 seconds, it might be less than 30 seconds. So clearly, therefore, to concentrate on that top third of the front page, because that's the bit that is most likely to get scan read first. And
Yes.
by trying to make that impact on that top third of page 1, and that's where you really need to concentrate your focus on.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's a good input.
And so that, because clearly the idea of the CV, or indeed the cover letter, which is another interesting subject, cover letters, to whether they are still relevant or not relevant. Many senior roles, do require a cover letter, and clearly that they, like the CV, need to be tailored to the individual job. It's not a case of just sending out a standard CV or a standard cover letter, because you're going to get absolutely nowhere. You need to understand the language, have done your desk research, and so on and so forth. But yeah, clearly the object of the CV, or indeed the cover letter, surely is only to get you to the interview. Because it's a sales tool. That's all it is. It's not the answer. It's not going to get you the job. It's going to get you, hopefully, an interview.
Absolutely. And then it's up to you to be the
Correct.
person that's on that CV. And
Exactly.
that's one of the difficulties with focusing too much on the CV. I would just say in brief that it can be a place to hide sometimes in the job search, or it can be a place to focus on, perhaps unnecessarily, in terms of how much focus is put on it. If you have something that's going to work for you, you've been getting a few sniffs or a few, responses back that, on a certain CV, focus on other ways of networking, focus on the hidden jobs market, focus on posting, liking, sharing, commenting, networking, personal branding, getting out there and speaking to people, whatever it is that's not the CV. I think that it is very easy to have that as being the almost like a central, if you get that bit right, then everything around it will kind of flow, which I don't think is necessarily the case, because it's always changing anyway. And if you've got the great CV, if you or us or you worked with anybody to get the best CV you felt was feasible, there's always going to be somebody out there, recruiter, headhunter, that wants to change that in order to forward it to their particular client for this particular role. So how do you win? You keep going back and looking at, oh, I can change this and I can change that. I would just say, leave the CV aside, once it's got to a point where it is getting you some response and you've had positive feedback from it in general, and focus on those other activities.
I think that's good advice. Thank you, Steve.
All right, no problem.
Steve, can I just go back to a very, I don't want to labor the point on CVs, but just one interesting thing you said a while back. Take the skills out of the front page. Someone's told me I should just put out. It's all been very confusing, because obviously I've just started looking for a job, and I've been talking to people over the last month or so, maybe 6 weeks, And one of the things they said was you have to have your key skill set at the top of your CV. And now it sounds like it's not there seems to be some debate on the matter.
Oh yeah, I think that's absolutely true. But it comes back down to this: what is the perfect CV? Our acquired view, if you like, comes off the back of interacting with a lot of senior level recruiters and asking them what they like to see on CV. So, I'm not saying that if you do that, it's a wrong move. There's always going to be flexibility. It's to me, it's more driven about getting past the bots and the algorithms and everything, and getting that CV through versus that CV being read by a human being, which is at the level we're working at primarily, is what I would hope would be the case. That it wouldn't be a whole bunch of CVs going into a machine and examining keywords and all of that. So I think that's where that comes from. The kind of people we research, Spencer Stewart, Heidrick and Struggles, Russell, Reynolds, there are always going to be a load of others in that top 10 or so, and that's not counting some independents that are a bit more under the radar, in terms of their activities. So if in doubt, I would say there's nothing wrong. You have to be you have to be the person who drives it in the end. And if there is any feeling of doubt, I always advise people, whether it be LinkedIn, how you're doing your LinkedIn headline, testing things like that. Just do an A/B split test, for a bit, sending it out to different people, sending another one out to different people. Is there any sense that there's more take up in one or the other? And that's the way that you're going to find your own kind of personalized answer to that question, if you like, really. But so it's come off the back of research, but I know that there's certainly coaches in my team that I've spoken to that would advocate exactly what you just said, and we're always having that kind of conversation. It's what's going to get through to get you the interview. It's just as simple as that.
And sorry, and excuse my ignorance. Oh, sorry, Ulrika.
No.
Sorry, excuse my ignorance. You said a minute ago to get you past the bots. Does that mean like people are more using AI scanners to scan through to things to make sure that there are keywords?
Yes. Well, no, it's someone will help me out, but the phrase has gone out of my head at the moment. That there is a system that they will put a CV through to ensure that it's got all of the necessary.
Sorry to interrupt. The ATS.
Thank you very much, Stephen. The ATS system, which is there to do that kind of thing. My hope and my feedback in terms of senior level roles, in terms of discussion and interactions we have with recruiters, is that it's more important about speaking to the person. Oh, thankfully, hopefully, AI and all the rest of it isn't taking over to that extent yet at all. But I still feel that the split testing is ultimately, if there's any doubt, if one is not convinced about one particular tactic over another, then try it. I would say it varies. I know that if I went back and looked at all of our successful clients, there's probably a majority that didn't do that, but there will be a whole bunch that did as well, I'm sure, just in terms of those keywords. But certainly, I think about the bit about it pushing things back onto page 2 as well, the chronological piece. If you want to have your kind of situation, task, action, result bits on your bullet points, then you want the real knockout punches of those to appear as far up the page 1 as possible. So that would be my kind of philosophy on that.
Thank you.
Happy to discuss further anyway. Yeah, just before we close, Ulrika, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, just quickly. I just have a question regarding the job application process, like on LinkedIn, because when you get some kind of jobs, open position to apply for, you have the opportunity. Obviously, you have to upload your CV, right? But then you have the option to also upload a cover letter, but it's only optional. So what I thought is, if I upload, or if people in general upload also the cover letter, and it's a good cover letter, then it might be an advantage for the applicant, that they might get an interview sooner if it's a real good cover letter combined with a very good CV.
Yeah. It comes back, I mean, this has been mentioned just now, but my philosophy about cover letters, whether it's the email version or an actual cover letter, you know, itself is brevity again. And it's just my own philosophy. So I'm not saying that's the gospel about everything. I'm one of these people that believes very much in you know, three punchy paragraphs, that kind of layout, you know, why you're looking for the role, how you meet it, and call to action type of stuff at the end where you're trying to get to that next stage. Not war and peace, definitely not. I mean, there's no that you know, I wouldn't even a block of explanatory text. You know, I'm my gut feeling and my experience just tells me that brevity is where it's at. As long as it's good brevity, obviously, as long as you've put a really good knockout punch, you know, into that central section, you know, increase this and this and this ROI X 500%, or if you're in a people business and you're in HR, you reduced attrition by such and such percent, whatever it might be, something that's going to really grab the eye. Going back to that, how many seconds you've got to grab someone's attention. And hey, look, there's a whole nother reason why I'm a great advocate of the unadvertised jobs market. Not saying don't advertise for things, but you know, a lot of things you advertise for, you see there's another 50, 100 to however many, you know, ahead of you in that queue. So I think there's a lot to be said about networking, branding, displaying your thought leadership, and having things come to you. Wouldn't that be ideal? I don't want that to sound pie in the sky. With a strategy behind it, that does work. That philosophy does work. Where it doesn't work, if someone's too desperate or thirsty, as I said earlier on, and they're just pushing things too much and they're pushing people away. You know, you need to have, you know, a couple of months of building up to sort of posting, connecting, nurturing relationships, having a couple of Zoom calls with people. Where does that lead? And that's all come off the back of you displaying your leadership abilities and so on. So yeah, short and sweet for the cover letter, but please don't ignore the unadvertised jobs market and how you might leverage that.
I was just thinking because, you know, because it's optional with the cover letter, and, you know, like, let me see, okay, I'm at the receiving end, receiving all these CV, and I see, okay, they just like sent through the CVs, like, you know, like distributing flyers. But this person, he had a cover letter and he put the effort in. Wouldn't that make a difference? Basically, that's my question.
Yeah, I just think it depends on who's at the other end. You know, is it someone who's thoughtful? Is it someone who's going to think in the same way that you've just described? Or will it be someone who just says, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, they're literally sort of filing things left, right, and center. So that's where again you have to go with your own ethos, I think. You know, if a cover letter seems like an important element for you, then go for it. Absolutely go for it if it's there as an option. For sure. But I think it does depend on the recipient and how many applications as well.
That's what I meant, yeah.
All of that is going to play into how caring and sharing if they're going to be, you know, ultimately, I think at the end of the day. Not being cynical, but it's all about you have to just keep going and keep pushing with all these kinds of things. Thanks, Ulrika. All right then, guys. We'll draw a line under it there, and I'm always around to answer questions on LinkedIn and all the rest of it. I'll come to you, so and just drop me a line as you wish. How can I help you?
Thank you very much indeed, Steve. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, you
thanks,
weren't asking a question. You were saying goodbye,
Oh.
were you, Zor?
No, I had a question.
Ah.
Is there a specific industry that you specialize in? Or is
No,
it...
it's across the board. So the team, I probably didn't mention, the coaching team is spread across the UK, the US, Singapore, Shanghai, Hong Kong. It depends where someone's located or where their target location is. That sort of makes sense. But in terms of, yeah, I mean, we work with people across many range of industries. The coaching skills are about asking the right questions, and there's an element of networking and who we know in amongst all of that as well. But usually it's around focusing on the candidate and how you know, efficient they are going to be in their interactions leading up to getting into that interview seat. But yeah, Yeah, right across the board.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
All right, guys. Hopefully we'll catch up soon then.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Steve.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Take care,
everyone.
guys. Thanks for your time, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.